the Cerebral Entertainment Podcast.
Wow. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to yet another riveting edition of the Cerebral Entertainment Podcast. I am James, and with me, as always, is my good friend Colt.
I'm here, man.
And with us on the line today from Zoomland, all the way from Los Angeles, California, Ace Ha. How you doing today, Ace?
Good. How are you fellas doing?
Great.
We're doing great.
You well? You hunkered down?
Yeah, been hunkered down for, I don't know, what was this, 2 weeks to flatten the curve? Seems like it's been a little more than that, but no, you know what? All things considered, man, we're doing well. And it's great to be on the line with you. Like we were discussing before we started the show, and it's been way too long since we got to sit down and chat with you. And I know we follow each other, all of us do on social media and keep track of the happenings of what's going on, but
That's right.
Still, it's something else to be able to sit down and actually have a conversation with you. I remember our last conversation, man. I think it went for well over 2 hours because once we got started, it was just like rolling, So I don't know if we're going to recreate that magic today, but nevertheless, dude, I am excited to be able to catch up with you and what's going on. So
Likewise, sirs.
Yeah. So
Tab is Tab says I'm long-winded too, so that's confirmation, I guess.
Oh, is that what I implied? I just meant we had a good conversation, but
Yes, I'll take that.
Yeah, that's okay, man. The gift of gab is it's a prize. Not everybody has that. So when you've got that, man, you can keep things rolling for a while. And in this doing podcasting or even just making music, I'm sure it's it's a benefit to have that trait.
It is. It doesn't in the industry, in either of our industries, being a wallflower ain't really gonna help. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. So yeah. So I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll take that. Good deal. So start us off, man. What's going on with you? What's up with Ace Ha nowadays?
Okay, so I don't know how this happened, by hook or by crook, but I got involved with an online presence called Bars and Notes, and they got a Facebook page. It's real hardcore hip hop, really on the lyrical side of things. But through that, I met a bunch of rappers, mostly out of Chicago, actually, which is a market that I haven't really tapped. And I've been working with a bunch of Chicago artists there. I just finished an album with a crew called Hurt Business, and it turned out really well. And I'm constantly working with like 7 or 8 artists in Chicago right now. And so right now, that's my big passion stuff. Now, as far as like paying the bills, I'm doing the same old stuff, just freelance producing. But
is there a reason why you haven't really tapped into Chicago till now, or you just never had the opportunity?
Okay, so you actually accidentally blundered into something. This is going to be a little weird to hear, but this is how it is. Okay, I have always, white boy in the hip hop game, I've always had this sense of not being authentic or something. I'm talking way back when I was 18 years old or whatever, and I got in the game. It was a little like I have sort of tended to not want to expose myself too much with Black artists, because I've always had this, you know what imposter syndrome is?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've always had this sense, like, I don't want to come off corny. I don't want to come off this, come off that. But I have gotten all kinds of love from these cats in Chicago, and Chicago rap is it's deep. It's real deep. It's New York deep. You know what I mean? Like Chicago rap's got a rich history, and they mean it there. You know what I'm saying? They mean it. And I have never, I've always thought of, Chicago as being really a market that I just couldn't crack. Not a whole lot of white rappers and yada yada. And I know that sounds messed up, but that's the reality of the situation. I just never really approached black rappers, not ever, but just not a lot. Okay, and now that I've gotten in with some in Chicago, I know it sounds messed up, but that's really how it is. And I've gotten a lot of love, and I've just been working with those guys. And it's actually gotten me past this sort of block that I've had, that I've kind of imposed on myself. And so I'm working with them a lot. And it's been nothing but love. It's great. And it's, it's a new direction. It's a new sound. It's a new everything. So
Awesome.
I'm having a great time. The Chicago cats are super duper good, and I I don't have this mental block anymore. That's basically what it comes down to. So
Nice.
that's what's been going on in the music thing.
Sounds like it happened organically. So if you had tried to force yourself into that particular scene, you may have landed flat, as opposed to
right. Come off corny. I don't want to be the dude's like, hey, I'm a white guy. I want to make, I don't want to be that. You know what I'm saying? It's just corny, and there's a lot of, it's a minefield, even like talking about it. I mean, just talking about it with you guys just now, it's like, oh Jesus, it's just gonna come back on me. But yeah, I didn't feel good enough. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just didn't feel legit, I guess. And I've always had that weird sense. And, even, I've done a lot of hip hop, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback and stuff, but I've always had this one sort of block. So anyway, I got through that shit, and I'm in Chicago doing stuff with them, and it's just great. I'll send it to you. It's great.
Yeah, fantastic, man.
Absolutely.
That's interesting, though. You've had insight into this, and I don't know, maybe you could, I don't know if you come up with an answer to this on the spot, but maybe it came with age because you have a little more wisdom now. I mean, 20 years ago, would you have had the same perspective that the imposter syndrome, insight? It's like, I don't want to get there and realize I don't belong here. Like this,
right.
I took a misstep and ended up, here, and now I don't know what to do with it.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing. I, along with a lot of white dudes in hip hop back from the 90s and through, I did the whole I want to be down thing embarrassingly. Like, I think you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that is definitely not the sort of persona that I want to project anymore, because now I'm older and wiser. I'm just like, be yourself, just be,
right.
Just be, and what happens, happens. Whereas I could easily see 20 years ago me saying a bunch of dumb. Can we swear on this? We can't, right?
No, you can. Yeah, go ahead.
You can say whatever you want.
I could see myself saying a bunch of dumb shit. Hey, let me be down. I'm not like the rest of the white boys, or whatever the fuck. And I'm glad that I'm not there. So this really came at a time that was good for me.
Yeah.
And it's significant enough to me that I'm geeked about it. For real. I know it may seem like not a big deal, but if you came up through the 90s in hip hop, it'll give you some perspective as to what an idiot I've been. So,
hey man, youth is wasted on the young. Am I right?
Man,
I mean,
it sure is.
We are trying to find ourselves, and who we want to be and how we want to be. And if only we knew then what we know now. But that's not the way life works.
Nope.
So you are definitely not alone in trying to be down or whatever it is, in any particular scene or just whatever, trying to fit in with a crowd, trying to do a certain thing. I mean, we live and learn. And so I was curious, and you answered my question very, very well, very eloquently, actually, about, whether or not you would have made the same decisions 20 years ago, because I find myself kind of in the same different circumstances, but with the same perspective,
Gotcha.
If I'd have been trying to do the things that I'm doing now 20 years ago, I would have embarrassed myself even further. You know what I'm saying? Because I just wasn't ready for what's been given to me now. And so I
That's
think there's
right.
something to be said for that.
That's absolutely right. There is definitely something to be said for age. There's some bad stuff to be said for age too, but there is definitely some good stuff to be said. That the perspective it offers is significant and way different than when you're an idiot trying to be yourself like everybody else,
Yeah.
as they say.
Yeah.
And ugh. I'm glad. I'm kind of embarrassed about how I was back then. So I didn't really deserve what I'm getting now back then, if I'm honest. So
Uh-huh. Yeah.
it's
Same.
cool.
Same. So, but nowadays, I can't help but notice how you're hardworking, man. And I don't need to see you on a regular basis. All I need to do is follow your SoundCloud and know that you're putting out so many beats. And I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not a producer by any stretch, but I've messed around with some of the software, some of the programs, and I know the meticulous and the time consuming and the tedious and how much work just and not even close to the amount of work that you put into it. So I can just imagine how long it takes to put down that 3 minutes of a beat. And you're doing this all the time, man. How do you, I don't know where you get the time to even do that.
Well, it's, you know what, it's luckily I have an obsession, and it's like anything else. If you got an obsession, it's really not trouble at all. You know, if I get a free moment, that's what I do. If I'm, if I can eke out any time doing the beats, that's what I do, and I love to do it. So it's not even an issue. Once you get to a certain proficiency, you don't have to worry about developing your skills anymore. So it's just pure. It's fillet. It's a fillet of the experience at some point.
Yeah.
You don't have to, oh man, how do I do this? How do I do that? This doesn't sound right. Why? And it's not like that anymore. So when I get in, I know what I want to do. I execute, and then I'm done. There's no real trial and error at this point.
Yeah.
So that really helps. I've just put in, enough time, a shocking amount of time. And so, yeah,
your experience streamlines the process, right?
Exactly right. That's a great way to put it.
Because you did put in so many hours. It's like a carpenter who can build a house in record time, whatever. I look at that, I'm like, man, he can build a house in 2 days. Like, how's this dude do that? But what you don't see is the countless hundreds of hours he put in before that, learning the trade, learning the process.
That's right. So really, he put in 2 days and 30 years into that house.
Right.
Really.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great way of putting it. That is exactly how it is. So
can you like run us through any bit of your process as far as making beats? Like, do you have just kind of the start of a beat that pops in your head and then you kind of take it from there, or do you have to find something first and then work off of that?
There are a couple of processes I use. First of all, I am primarily a sampling artist, but I don't sample the way other people sample. I go looking for a sound, put that sound in with the beat, and then go looking for another sound from somewhere else and put that in the beat. And it becomes this sort of gumbo, so that my process can be initiated in various ways. I can listen to a drum loop and go, what would sound dope if I had something like right there, and then I go and I look for it and I put it on there, and then I go, what else would be dope? Yeah, and so I find that and I put it in there.
So wait a second. So you say you have you want a certain sound and you have to go look for it. How do you find that?
Well,
like just that certain sound. You can't just Google wah wah and find it. You know what I mean?
I have 10,000 LPs.
Okay, that's a decent amount.
So most of the time that I spend in this is spent on finding the sounds, listening through stuff and going, yeah, that will meet my needs. No, that won't. I got to cut this up, put it in. And so I listen through lots and lots and lots of music. But as a result, I also kind of know where things are. So I sit there and go, hey, that old Sha Na Na album had that part where Bowser went, eh. And I go, I get it, and I put it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I just have sort of a record of it in my head. But a thing that I've been doing lately is listening to other people's hip hop from two rooms away. So I play it in a room, leave the room, go somewhere else, so that I can just hear sort of a muffled impression of stuff, and something will jump into my head because of that. And I go, oh man, yeah, so it's kind of going, and then I'll go in and it'll be totally not that. It's just the distortion through the walls that has inspired it. And I'll go, okay, yo, I'm going to do that. So I've actually been using that technique a lot, which is something I just kind of hit on, which is a weird way to be, inspired, but mishearing other people's rap, basically.
That's fantastic, man. I mean, that kind of a creative process, that just, once again, comes organically. Who does that?
Right.
I mean,
right.
Fantastic.
And I'm sure you get 1,000 producers and they'll all tell you they do a different thing. I'm sure.
Yeah, sure.
But, sometimes I start with a sample I like. Sometimes I start with the drums. Sometimes I listen through the wall. Sometimes somebody says something, and it just, it's highly reactive, though. I will say that it's a highly reactive sort of thing. It is, once in a while I'll pop up in the morning and go, oh man, there's this melody. I got to put it down, and then I'll run in the studio, put it down, and build from there. But mostly it's a reaction to other things that I hear. So that's the process, man.
Nice. Nice. With a lot of your music, to me, and you can correct me if you don't think that this is correct, even though it's subjective, but it seems to me like you have a heavily influenced California sound. Is that the way you see your music?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. Yep, I do. I will tell you, Dr. Dre is a huge influence on me, which is not going to be readily apparent to a person because I don't sound like Dre.
Yeah, right.
But there are certain aesthetics about Dre, a certain cleanness of sound, an elegance and simplicity. There's the way he arranges things. That stuff really sticks to me, and I really, really hate it when people bite other people's style. Like, oh, I'm gonna do a beat just like Kanye. I'm gonna do a beat just like Premier. I'm gonna do a beat just like Dre. And the shit always just comes off sounding kind of cheap. And it's cool if you're just starting to emulate people. But at some point, you need to come up with your own sound. So even though Dre is a big, big influence on me, I don't try to sound like him. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
DJ Muggs is another one that's a huge, huge influence on me, and he's California also. So I am deeply, I think it's safe to say that I got a West Coast sort of aesthetic in general.
Yeah.
So does your sound and style mesh well with these Chicago guys you're dealing with now, or have you had to change some a little bit to kind of fit into that?
The weird thing about that is, that's funny you asked that. The weird thing is that generally when I'm working with people, they like to go through my newest stuff. They like to hear all my new stuff. They're, oh, let me get that one you just did. Let me get that one you just did. These cats have gone very deep into my catalog, and like a dude just rocked a beat that I did 14 years ago.
Nice.
So I haven't really had to adapt anything because they're just finding stuff through my catalog, and usually stuff that I would never have placed them on, but they're like, oh man, that's perfect for me. And I'm like, really? Okay. So they haven't asked me to change anything. The most they've said is I want a boom bap track or I want a trap track, and that's outside of that. And I'm like, oh man, I guess I'll try to cook something up. And they go, yep, that's it. And it's easy like that. They are, and they are as a group, these cats like all know each other, right?
Yeah.
They're from the same online spot, and they are good, man. They are good. They're really good. So it's like, even if I give them a beat that I'm not particularly feeling, they have time and again thrown down on it, and it just comes out like, wow, I didn't even hear that. So they're very, very talented. And also an older crowd, also, I should say.
Hmm.
There isn't a lil or baby among them.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's really great. They've got, these are heady artists that have been, in the game 20 plus years. They know what they're doing, which is really, really nice. Also, hearing your stuff, hearing your beat rapped on by somebody who's really good is a super gratifying experience. It's like nothing else. It's great. It's great. It's been great. I love it.
Yeah, that's
That's how I
fantastic.
am, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Don't have any veteran rappers rapping over our beats or anything, but we're hanging in there.
Oh
It is.
man, you got to try it.
Yeah, I would love to. I would. That sounds fantastic. When you said that, when you framed it, that these were some experienced older cats been in the game for 20 years,
Huh?
that makes it even that much more interesting to me. It's like that really, that really entices me. Nothing wrong with the younger guys. You got to have them. I mean, because the older
That's
guys
right.
were younger guys at one time, right?
That's exactly right.
Going back to that experience and that wisdom kind of dictating your moves now and how you portray yourself, how you present
That's right.
your art and present yourself to other people in general, with that wisdom, to me, that seasoned veteran appeal really comes into
Yes.
play there. And that's
Yes.
really got my senses heightened.
Yeah, these artists, they are not trying to find themselves. They're trying to tell you how it is.
Yeah,
And
there you go.
it's very refreshing. I'm very happy to hear it. So, so when I was talking to you, I don't know if you have a list of like things you want to talk about or something, but I am very curious as to how people in your neck of the woods are dealing with the new reality. Is it too early to ask you about that?
Absolutely not, man. We are. This is your time on the show, so be happy to talk about that. So let's kind of unpack that a little bit, though. What exactly do you mean by new reality? I mean, I think I have a pretty good idea, but
Okay, so without being, without coming down on one side or the other,
sure.
I live in Los Angeles. I've known people who have gasped their last with this COVID thing. I know some people who have been through the ringer and it has completely decimated them. I know people who've had COVID and have, who basically are like, yeah, it's a bad cold, so what? And that, you know what I mean? And so I think that this wide variance in experiences is leading to a lot of misunderstandings about what's going on. People tend to take their own experience and use it as a template on the world and say, this is my experience, so that's how it is. That's, your experience. And things have gotten politicized that way, and it's an ugly scene. One way, no matter how you shake it. Now, I live in California, which is officially one of the tightest states, I think. Like, people think of California, we're all, wearing hazmat suits or whatever. And it just, yes, officially that's true. But okay, I just opened my window. I'm looking out into the park. There's a crowd of people and not a mask among them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's, people got this idea that California is on lockdown. It really It really isn't. it's,
Yeah.
it's not. And, you know, some people might say it could be better. Some people might say, you know, it could be more relaxed. I don't know. But it is, it's not what people think. And so when I ask that, I ask you how things are in the new reality for you, because you are in a different place. And I wonder what your impressions of here or Florida or Texas or New York might be. Because
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting because like we're about an hour south of St. Louis. And wouldn't you compare St. Louis maybe to like a New York or like an LA as far as kind of how they're getting through things, or no?
Maybe like a New York light. You know,
Okay, yeah.
they have some aspirations to, you know, try to be hard nosed and lock things down. But if you look at the vaccination rates, like, you know, just for instance, the vaccine is probably the lowest hanging fruit that we can talk about when it comes to the pandemic, right? You
Sure.
know, when it comes to that, I would say that St. Louis is still far behind as far as their aspirations, even also, but also their ability, especially their ability to be able to, you know, stack up to New York.
Right. Well, the
Sure.
reason why I ask is because I say we're an hour south of St. Louis, and that doesn't seem like much, but but an hour south of St. Louis is completely different than St. Louis.
It's almost like a world away. I mean, if you look
Yeah.
at our rates in this part, we're like, I think some of the lowest in the country as far as vaccination rates. We're out
Okay.
here, you know, we're in the rural part of Missouri, right? You know, you see flags that say come and take them. You know, there was one sign that was on the way to Colts that just blatantly said "fuck Biden," you know, and it looked like a presidential campaign flag, but pulling no punches, right? I mean,
in case you wanted to know, just a little update on that.
yeah.
So I drove by that the other day, and it wasn't there at their house anymore, and I couldn't figure out. I was like, oh, well, they finally took it down. No, they put it in their back of their truck, and they're driving around with it now.
They want everybody to see that. Okay. So to give you just a little bit of an understanding about where we're at, you know, it's not like, it's not completely like Confederate flag flying, you know, deep South type of stuff, but you do see some Confederate flags around here and there.
Sure.
Not that that's the majority per se, but when it comes to like individual freedoms, when it comes to strong Christian beliefs, when it comes to pretty hardcore conservatism,
Sure.
that's the reality that we live in, with or without COVID, right? So
Sure.
with COVID, then you come in, and we, you know, there for a while last year, it was a scary time because everybody was wearing masks. You know, everybody was being careful. Everybody was wiping all the shit they bought from Walmart or
Sure.
Amazon, coming in there wiping it down with antibacterial or whatever disinfectant wipes,
Sure.
and everybody was scared. We didn't know what was happening. And like, you know, like you mentioned earlier, I got COVID. I lost my taste and smell, and that was about it. I didn't even really have a cold.
Right.
Colt got COVID, and he had a harder time with it. I mean, he wasn't one of those that had to go to the hospital or anything, but he was down for about a week. I know people
Sure.
who have died. You know, I know it's a real thing, and other people do too. Um, so, but you know, in a lot of ways, it's still about the individual freedom here. It's still about
Right.
you're not gonna step on, you know, don't tread on me, right?
Sure. Sure.
So when we look at, I was just reading the other day about how California, you can correct me if you know better than this as well, because I know what I read. It came off the internet, so it has to be true, right? But
Right.
from what I hear, is California's the first state to mandate school kids have to be vaccinated to go to school.
Yep, that's right.
Is that correct?
I believe I read that thing. I believe I read that as well. Except I was under the impression that it was local statutes
Okay,
that were enforcing it, not a statewide.
got you. Okay,
Right.
so
I
we
may
look.
be wrong, but that was my impression.
So we look at that, and I say we as a general population here, right? Because
Mhm.
I'm all about using my own brain and not following the masses with anything. Sometimes maybe even to my own detriment, but whatever. That's another discussion. But you know, we look at something like that, or like New York, you know, and they're putting the hammer down on the nurses, and they're having a mass exodus of nurses who say, well,
Right.
look, we were here, we were your frontline workers during the pandemic before the vaccination. Now you're saying we have to get the vaccination or we don't have a job anymore. And
Yeah.
so there's this, you know, there's these lines in the sand that people are not wanting to cross.
Yep.
And we see that, and then we see the mandates in California, and we're like, those are some really restrictive states. Then you see Florida, who's just, they're balls to the walls, like, come and get us, because we're not gonna, as a matter of fact, if you try to mandate a mask, I'm gonna come and get you, according to the
Right.
governor.
That's
So
right. That's
you're
right.
right, though. A
But
lot of confusion. A lot of confusion.
what is Florida's rates like?
From my understanding, their rates are through the roof right now.
Right. Okay.
Their hospitals are overrun, which happens. It waxes and wanes with this COVID.
Sure.
And the problem is, there are times where the numbers are very high, the infection rates are very high, and so the emergency rooms, ICUs, are overrun. And you'll see these anecdotal stories of someone who, was having a heart attack and couldn't get in to get their treatment because it was full of COVID patients. And then they say because all these people were unvaccinated, had to go to the hospital. And so it's these unvaccinated people. This is the politicizing part of it, right? These unvaccinated people are the reason why my dad died of a heart attack, because he couldn't get in to get the treatment that he needed. Now, is there some honesty to that? Probably, to some degree, but just the way it's being used, it's really causing another chasm in our society. And it seems like that, you have people from different areas, because that California is typically going to be more liberal. New York's going to be more liberal. Florida's going to be pretty conservative.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you can tell state by state where people's, or not even, maybe even within a state, because if you go to St. Louis and Kansas City, those are more liberal communities, right? They're cities. So your urban areas are going to be more liberal. Get outside of those, anywhere else in Missouri, you're going to be in a conservative area. You can't step on you're not going to step on anything that's not conservative leaning. So you can tell where someone's political affiliation is going to lie. You can tell where their vaccination, typically, at least in I would say a majority, where their vaccination, their perspective on that is going to lie. You can tell whether or not they're pro-life. You can tell whether or not they're ready to go to war. It's amazing how polarized we are right now in this country, man.
Yeah. Let's at some point let's circle back to that, because something has arisen in my life that is a pretty stark change for me. So I'd like to get back to the whole political thing that you just brought up at some point. But my thing about the personal freedom is this, and probably this is LA on me, but there's a difference between personal freedom that is truly personal within your bubble of your person. You know what I mean? Like you smoking at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
You doing drugs at home, you drinking at home, versus you doing any of that stuff in public, like driving drunk, or or getting whacked out, on meth and doing something terrible, or there are these lines that are crossed that once you affect other people, freedom of choice it gets a lot more gray, right? Like personally, if a person doesn't want to get vaccinated, great, don't. That's on you. However, if you get the virus and then spread it to a bunch of people, you didn't actually it wasn't just your, you did your personal freedom thing, but you also imposed your choice on somebody else and got them sick, got them killed, got them whatever, or got them, they're asymptomatic and went spread it to a bunch of other people. And there is where our big divide is, right there. Some people are of the opinion that personal freedom trumps all. And what I want to do, I'm going to do, and you can't stop me. That's that. And that is, to me, I bristle at authority telling me what to do, just kind of as a gut reaction.
Right.
I don't really dig authority so much, but on the other hand, you can't have just chaos and bedlam, right? I mean, and you could say, well, it's your personal choice not to go outside, but it's not their choice. It's being made for them. They don't want to get sick and die. So yada, yada, yada. So we have this intersection in this country right here. And I wonder if that, if that choice, the freedom of choice trumping all thing is is divided between the goddamn Republicans or the goddamn Democrats. So
two sides of the same coin.
You're absolutely right, and that's actually what I wanted to talk to you guys about. This whole political. I think the last time I talked to you, you probably got the impression that I skew left, and I do skew left, but I absolutely loathe the Democrats. Okay, like in a way that has never. I voted for Obama and yada yada. But I didn't vote for Biden. I can't stand Nancy Pelosi. I can't stand the Democratic. The DNC is a bunch of evil, money grubbing sons of bitches, performative, hypocritical sons of bitches. So I don't have really a dog in the whole political fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
So
do.
I do, my stuff is on a case by case. Give me an issue, I'll pick a side, but it's not going to be blind adherence to some sort of platform by either of the parties, because frankly, if either of the parties actually actually expressed the values that they claim to have, I would vote for that party, but neither of them do. It's all just a power play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that COVID has been used in that power play. I don't really truly believe Democrats care about COVID any more than they actually care about pro-life or pro-choice. I don't think anybody actually really cares about that stuff. It is just tools they use to get votes and maintain power and keep their coffers full. And that is about the end of it. And they're doing it with COVID the exact same way. So the way COVID is being handled is highly suspect and highly political. And it just makes me sick. So that's where I am on that. Whereas, a few years ago, I would have said, well, what are the Democrats doing? That's what I want. And now I loathe them. So those are my COVID thoughts. That's the total COVID thought thing. Right?
Well, let me interject with one more perspective here, and this. I don't understand. I understand a lot about the splitting. I understand a lot about the political divide, the polarization. But if it were obvious to everyone that the vaccine that was produced in record time, right? If it were
suspect record time, some might say.
A lot of people do say that.
Yeah.
But if it were like, for sure, you could prove that it was safe and effective, I think that you would take out a lot of the hesitation that people have toward the vaccination and a lot of the arguments they have, not to get it.
Yeah.
But we don't have that, and it comes down to a mistrust of the government. And so this is one thing I don't understand, is how a mistrust of the government can sway back and forth depending on who's in power, right?
That's right.
Because
same government.
Yeah, it's the same government. It's the same thing. But it just depends on who is sitting in that particular seat. Now we don't believe them anymore, although we did 6 months ago before the election, right? Which I know it's been more than 6 months ago, but I don't want to do that math right now. But it was just not too long ago that we didn't trust the government at all. You know, it
right.
was this, and I've seen a meme. I'm going to butcher it because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but something like, you know, the patriarchy, this and this and that. And you can flip it back on either side. Like, I'm like you. Politics to me is just a ridiculous performance act.
Yep.
And it gets in the way of real life for us, because it you know, there's real life consequences for the things that they're doing in
That's right.
politics for
In the
us.
name of power, for the
In the
name,
name-
for the sake of power. Yeah.
Exactly. Not just like immediate power, but perpetual power. Like they're playing the long game. You know, you've got senators that have been senators for 30, 40 years. They
right.
know what they're doing. They know how to stay in power. They know how to play this game. And because they know how to play it so well, they're using the populace as the pieces, as the game
That's
pieces.
right. That's right.
And yet I don't understand how people can allow the fear of things. And by people, I'm not, it works on me too, I'm sure. Although I spend a lot of time trying to dissect it and not believing anything that I've been told by the government or whomever is running, you know, any particular, what I consider propaganda.
Hence every podcast episode that we have.
Right. But you know, I don't understand how we can allow that to happen as a people. And so throwing that aspect of fear in there. So if there were no question about the efficacy and the safety of this vaccine, then I think there would be a lot less questioning. But since there is, then it's part of the reason why we're at where we're at. And you know, they say trust the science, and I even saw somebody not too long ago said follow the science. The problems with follow the science with that term, because what they should say is follow science. When you add the in there, when you say the science, you're pointing to a particular science.
Which science you mean?
Right, the science, really? Okay, so and I just want to throw that little aspect in there.
Well, that's another thing that brings up is this. With the coinage and popularization of the term fake news, and I'm not even going to put this at Trump's feet, because this is a sentiment that's been around for decades.
Yeah.
But so, who exactly, what authority will the entire populace give credence to about a given thing, right? If you say we have mistrust of the government, well, okay, so not the CDC, not the you know, FDA, not the da. Then who? Because if you go outside of that, and I'll bring this around when I say this, if you go outside of government agencies and say, okay, they're not the authority, I don't trust them, because, you know, whatever administration is in is not the one you like. Okay, so you're like, no way, I won't trust that. Who do you trust then? Do you trust a corporate entity who is for sure there for money and power just as surely as an old politician is? In fact, many of those politicians are bought and paid for, as you know, by those corporate entities.
Mm-hmm.
So then, like, it would be very difficult. This is a tough thing to solve, because I don't think you're going to be able to find an authority that everybody's going to go, yeah, that's the authority, because people have confirmation bias, and they will tend to put their trust into any entity that reinforces their previously held beliefs.
Yes.
And it's a gut reaction. It's a reflexive thing, you know. You're like, no, that's wrong. And for the longest time, I can tell you from my own experience, if a Republican said something, I automatically went, nope. And if a Democrat said something, I automatically went, yep. And now I do not adhere to that at all. And now I'm, you know, like most Americans, I really, you know, I'm not going to put my my faith in, say, Alex Jones uh, recommendations for how to handle an infectious disease, right?
Right.
I'm just
I hope not.
I'm just plain old not. And so, nor am I going to listen to, you know, Pfizer, because obviously they want to sell a thing. And that is their chief, you know, being a corporate entity, their chief directive is to increase the bottom line, period. However, they have to do that. And so you can't trust that. You can't trust the government. You don't want to trust podcaster, present company excluded. You don't want to,
Thank you.
you know, some guy with a sandwich board on the street. You know, so the problem here is that everybody is following whoever is reinforcing their beliefs, and that is no way to get anything done. And I know that the CDC and the FDA and the EPA and all of that has been deeply, deeply corrupted, deeply, deeply infiltrated by corporate interests and political interests. And so, you know, I mean, Colt, the FDA told us that we should eat tons and tons of carbs for like 2 decades, right? And that was
they're healthy, right?
Yeah,
they're all healthy. Yeah,
that's right. And that's our government told us that shit. We know that's not true. We know that sugar is terrible. Da, 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 da. But for years and years and years, that's what they push at us. So, you know, they told us that weed would have you blowing people in an alley. You know,
Wait, that's
for
not
years,
true?
I remember that dare shit back when I was a kid. They would, you know, they told these, man, he smoked a joint and then he pulled his own eyeballs out and jumped out the window. And you're like, dude.
Yep.
And I know that you know, it's demonstrably false. So where do you go? Who do you say, yeah, you're going to be the authority? And that's our problem.
You have hit the nail on a couple of different heads here that Colt and I actually have been discussing. The one, I think it was just our podcasting last week, hasn't even dropped yet. I was talking about my rabbit hole of disbelief in everything and everyone, basically,
Right.
and just how deep does that rabbit hole go? I mean, what do you do at some point? Honestly, what do you do? Another thing that we were talking about is, I think I mentioned something along the lines of, we spend our lives chasing our confirmation biases. You know,
that's right.
That's all we've got. There was something in evolution that caused us to seek those things that reinforced our ideas about whatever. And I think that was a product of our evolution as humans. I think that is the game of the government, though. That is their game. They know this. They're not just willy-nilly playing mind games. They know about this confirmation bias that we're constantly chasing, that it's in our nature, and they're manipulating us uncontrollably. I think the machine is bigger than even what they understand it is.
So you're saying that we should be looking at our own selves and wondering why we believe in the things we believe to find a real answer to everything? Is that what you're saying?
No, you can't be an expert. No person can be an expert in everything. There simply isn't the time, mostly not the wherewithal either. So at some point, you have to defer to somebody's authority. This article that was written, or this doctor who says this, or, you know, whoever at some point, because you know, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to go out and get a control group and administer vaccine to these people and follow them around for months. I'm not going to do that shit. I got beats to make. So, you know, at some point you have to defer to somebody's authority. And the problem is, like you were saying, you know, if your grandmother said homosexuality is evil, then you may go through your life looking for the confirmation to that thing that was instilled in you. Or if you know, somebody says homosexuality is the most natural thing in the world, you know, your grandmother says that, then you come up the exact opposite way. And then by the time you're an adult, everything's entrenched. Nobody wants to hear shit from the other side. Nobody, you know, and nobody wants to defer to anybody's authority. Certainly nobody's authority that is counter to their view. So what do? I mean, I don't have time.
There was I think that moment of silence spoke volumes. Like, what are you doing? There's no answer there.
Right. We're like, please don't make me answer that.
Colt, tell
No,
me,
I
please.
got nothing. I got nothing.
Well, I guess you're not the authority that I'm going to defer to then, Colt.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah. You know, it's got to be a matter of the opening of minds, the use of critical thinking. But I agree with you completely. It's like, I don't even know if we have a choice at some point that we are going to defer to an authority, somebody, you know, whether it's grandma, whether it's, you know, president of the United States, whether it's, you know, a messiah, whether it is whomever.
Right.
So you're going to, and this is a belief that I was brought up on, was that you're going to serve a master, and you're going to choose who you serve. But there's no choice not to serve anyone, because that's not the way it works.
Right.
And so so in general, that's what we're talking about. I think that you're going to have to defer. And I say everyone. I think there are always those outliers. I think there are always those people who they go when they live out in the woods.
Yep.
Maybe they defer to nature. Maybe that is, you know, their messiah. Maybe that is their authority.
Right.
So I guess in that way, it's still a universal concept, but it's not necessarily a person, living or dead, who they defer that authority to. Nevertheless, I don't think we have a choice. Maybe I think we're going to do that. You know,
Well, we have to.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
That's the way that we're programmed, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's a real problem, because there's a lot of authorities out there, you know, quote unquote authorities.
That's right. And some have power here, some have power there, some have power this year, some have power this year. Right.
Right.
It does make for a confusing soup. You get something like China, they don't have that problem there. China goes, this is how it is, and that's that. And everybody goes, that's that. I don't want to live in that society.
Right.
But it does give them an advantage in certain arenas.
It simplifies things.
Absolutely.
It simplifies their approach to life and philosophy.
That's right. And they move as one, and that's it. Nobody really, you know, I mean, you get your dissidents or whatever, but in general, you know, China says you stop eating meat on Thursdays and Mondays, and that's it. And everybody just does it. And that's the end of it. They perceive that as some sort of solution for some problem, and then they get their answer quick, because that's how it works there.
Absolutely.
Here, we have freedom, which I know a lot of places have freedom. I'm not saying this is the only place, but this is where I live. We have freedom, and I wouldn't want to live somewhere that didn't have what we have. But man, does it cause a lot of problems, and man, does it gum up the works a lot.
Yeah.
So, oh man.
Well, you know, China, I know you probably have heard this, and I would imagine that it hurts your soul, but you know, China is limiting their video game playing for school-age kids. Man,
I know, like 3 hours a week or something.
3 hours, yeah, something like that. It was incredible. But you know, think about it though. Like, as a parent, okay, I have 2 younger children. As a parent, I have to, it's an uphill battle always, but I have to try and limit their electronic time because of how much it consumes them. And it takes away from their homework. And China's playing the long game, right?
Yep.
They know that this thing that's fun, entertaining, and takes up so much time and you know, energy, I guess, mental energy at least, is taking away from 20, 30, 40 years from now. These school kids are going to be the one that's going to be running government and running business, running corporations, and in the military, and fighting the you know, the United States if we're still a power by then. So they're taking now and they're investing in this crop, this upcoming, you know, the crop of children, by restricting their entertainment time, their leisure time, and it's a smart move. But I'm like you, I definitely wouldn't want to live there because I shudder at authority myself.
Right. That's right.
Especially authority that is finger pointing, authority that comes over so strong, you know. It's like
they will whoop it on you in a second.
Yeah, you either do this or else. I'm like, well, damn, that's not a good way to get me to do something. I mean,
but also, don't you think But also, don't you think they look at it differently because that's all they've ever known?
Yes, for
probably.
sure.
You know,
For sure.
like
I
they,
mean,
I don't know that they look at us and is like, I want to live that way because they've only known the way that they know. You know.
Sure, that's right. I can tell you two things. If I were in China, and if we three lived in China, suddenly we would be breaking rocks inside of 6 months.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We just couldn't. We could not adapt to that. I
It just
know.
wouldn't work. Yeah.
That's right. But I have to say, I make a lot more beats when there isn't a new Far Cry out. That's a fact. So like you say, that's going to be an advantage because they're going to have leaders that have attention span,
Yeah.
the ability to concentrate, no expectation to be entertained on demand. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that is gonna pay off. That's gonna in dividends for them for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But they're an awful authoritarian, totalitarian regime. So that's the trade-off.
You know, they took the guns from the citizens many years
Yep.
ago, decades ago.
That's right.
So they don't have people going into malls and churches shooting people up.
True.
You know,
It's true.
they're very restrictive, and the concepts that the platform that they use for those restrictions, it makes sense. And yet, as a true American citizen, I couldn't imagine. I don't want it. I want nothing to do
That's
with it. I wouldn't want to make the change. To me,
Yep.
there's pros and cons, and the cons far outweigh the pros as far as being a communist China type of having that system,
Oh,
living in that system.
by far. And by the way, firearms, I mean, there is not likely to be a regime change there because they don't have guns,
Right.
right? Yeah, they don't get shot up at malls, but also the government tells them what to do. There's nothing they can do about it, and it could get to, you know, God knows what they could impose on us. But you know what the social credit system is there? You know what that means?
Yeah, I mean, briefly. I don't know it comprehensively, but yeah.
They have like this, they've implemented this thing that's kind of like our credit score,
Mm-hmm.
except it has to do with their citizenship values. Like they don't buy alcohol on their credit cards. They don't do this. Their bosses don't say bad things about them. Their neighbors haven't complained about them, whatever. And your score is up if you behave like a good little drone. And if you don't, your social credit score goes down. And when it goes down, they restrict travel. They restrict what you can buy. They restrict where you can live, what jobs you can have, just based on, am I a good drone or not?
Right.
Isn't that like that?
And that is terrifying to me.
I was about to ask you, what does that remind you of, Colt?
Black Mirror, that Black Mirror
Black
episode.
Mirror. It's exactly
There
like
you
Black
go.
Mirror.
Oh yeah. That's right. That's right.
I mean, that's more
right.
like kind of like social media related, sort of, but it's
Right.
it's the same concept. Like you have a score, and you can't fly if your score is under this amount because you
That's right.
mouthed somebody when you were getting your coffee this morning or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember that episode.
Yeah.
Was it Dallas Bryce, whatever her name was in that episode? Ron Howard's kid.
I don't remember
Oh,
that.
really? I didn't
but
know.
It might be because she was a redhead. She was a flaming redhead, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
True.
think so.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was his
So-
girl.
Me neither.
That was. Oh yeah. So that's terrifying. I mean, that's, and that could, I mean, our credit score is pretty restrictive too, but it's not like that yet. I mean, do you know how long the credit score here in this country has been around?
I do not.
It's something like the 70s or 80s is when that started.
Wow.
Really?
That's amazing to me because I thought that the credit score had been around, for 100 years or something. But it is really recently that they implemented that system, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Which I find, whoa, I thought it's always been here, but it hasn't.
Right.
It's new. And that right there is another government overstep or financial institution overstep or whatever. Like, I don't
Mhm.
like authority. Like I said, I don't dig it, but we don't have it as bad as they have it in China
That's
from
true.
our perspective.
But
Yet.
But
but what
yeah, exactly. But shit is creeping up though. It
Yeah.
really is.
Right.
but what's the other solution to like getting a loan that you're supposed to pay back and things like that? Like, what's the other solution besides like a credit score?
Well, here you go, though. And that's a good question. And because I do believe that a credit system is important,
Mhm.
right? A credit system, because you got me in my early 20s who would blow
Sure.
my credit score out because I was stupid and
That's right.
young and didn't care,
That's right.
right? Fast
That's
forward
right.
20 years, I care a lot about it because I need, to buy certain things and I don't have the money on hand. So I need that
Sure.
line of credit. But here's an example of why the the credit score system is jacked. It,
Yep.
it it's a it's an embezzlement basically, or whatever. It's a racket, because
Yep.
I can get a credit card, okay, and I
Yep.
can put a balance on there and pay it off every month, and not carry over that balance, right?
Yep.
That seems like a pretty responsible thing to do, right?
Sure does.
But I don't get rewarded for that with my credit score. I get rewarded if I carry a balance, and I carry a balance over to where I get that interest charge. Why? Because money is
That's right.
going to them.
That's
know,
right.
And then doesn't your credit score even go down if you pay it off?
That's right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It wasn't set up for the reason they say it was set up. It was set up for a different reason, and that is to say maximum profits.
Right.
To
If it
fleece
were
to
if it
fleece
were
us.
just about responsibility, people would have very different credit scores than they do.
Yes.
But but like everything else, it's manipulated by those in power to maximize their whatever profits, power, influence, whatever. And it's not the thing that you think it is. Because, like you said, if you have a balance and you pay it at the end of the month and you're good with that and you show that you're responsible, your credit score should go up.
But it does not.
It's nonsensical that it doesn't.
Right. I absolutely. It's
Right.
not based off of responsibility.
No.
I mean, loosely it is, but
Right.
because if you don't pay it at all, then of course you get there's
Sure.
consequences.
That's right.
Even though they're racking on the charges, they're racking on the late fees, they're racking, the higher interest rates that you're going to pay. So what it comes down to is you have to pay us. It's the rich, the super rich, giving us small folk a little bit of what they got. They're throwing us their
That's right.
crumbs. They're throwing us crumbs.
That's right. That's right. And that's what it is. And so, fellas, I have grown to really hate authority. Like but it's not China. And
At least we
China
have that.
is,
At least we have that.
yeah, we have that. And I don't know, is China's star still rising? Are they still on the uptick? Or have they cooled yet?
They're having some issues right now. They're in a housing bubble that is threatening to burst.
Yep, I
So
read that.
if
That's right.
if that housing bubble bursts, China, they're the second largest economy in the world now, right?
Yep.
So
That's
if
right.
that housing bubble bursts, guess what? The whole world's going to have to face another shitstorm like they did in 2008 when ours bursted,
That's right.
because all the monetary value of all these different countries, especially now with China because they're so big, is going to be, it's not going to be quite as big because the dollar was the main source, the main monetary value used in world trade.
That's right.
But now China, what is China's yen?
China has the yuan.
Yuan, okay. Japanese yen, right? So
Yep.
the Chinese yuan is now, it's a highly it's used, it has a lot of influence in world markets, world trade. And so if that burst, not going to be quite as much of a shitstorm as 2008, but you're looking at basically the same kind of things. So this is what happens when all of these super massive big countries, corporations is what you might as well say it is, get together and start making these bubbles. It's all bubbles are bound to burst. You don't see a bubble floating around forever. It floats around for a while.
Right.
People fleece what they can out of that bubble, and then everybody else pays the consequences. And China's about to do the same thing. So
Yep.
just because they have a system of government to control the people doesn't apparently mean that they can control that yet. They're still learning, how to, I guess, stay as militantly consistent as possible in order to keep from their bubbles bursting on themselves. Other than that, it seems like they're having some other issues. Obviously, the pandemic um, affected them as well. But the financial markets is really, I think that's been the big thing that people are looking at to see if China, how it really affects them in the long run.
I read that the experts say that China is unlikely to prop up their real estate giants, that they're prepared to let them fall,
Wow.
actually, which is a big difference, which is a very, very different approach than the one we took, where we propped up GM, we propped up these banks and all of that. I wonder what that will mean for them. But I do know this: if the yuan is ever the world currency, the United States is fucked.
Yeah.
Because we can't just print money anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that will be so, just from a self-preservation standpoint, I kind of hope things go poorly in China. That's but I'm not ready for the new masters just yet. I don't think.
If you look at a lot of those futuristic movies, oftentimes there's a heavy Chinese influence.
Sure.
In the major cities and whatnot, you'll see Chinese billboards,
right,
and you'll see it's just almost in the background. But
yep,
they're so often Hollywood is like ahead of the game when it comes to like the technology that's already out there we don't know about yet. We're like, whoa, this movie's really futuristic, man. This is oftentimes it's not quite so futuristic. It's like what's Black Mirror, near future.
Yeah, they're futuristic or whatever, but I mean, most of that stuff, they've already come up with. They're not just making this stuff up out of thin air,
Yeah. So Hollywood oftentimes has their finger on the pulse of what's coming down the pike, and I see that in a lot of the futuristic movies.
Sure, Blade Runner, Firefly, all that stuff. It was basically like China really, really came up in the world big time.
Right.
And it makes it seem inevitable. If you're going by science fiction, it seems inevitable that China will rise. It will to number one. But dude, they got the authority, like they've got the control to do it.
Right.
And we can't get united for another. I don't think we've been united since, right after World War II, maybe through Korea. And then after that, man, it's been a line that's been deepening more and more. And it's the number one problem for our country, I think, is the inability to get things done while other people do.
Yeah. I think that's correct, except I believe the biggest part of that problem is the fact that there's no end in sight. I mean, there's no unifying factor or no unifying figure that's really, I mean, you would think that something like a pandemic would help bring us all together, right? Like we all want to stay alive. We all want to help each other. There's a social contract, like kind of what you were alluding to earlier, Ace, is that, when personal freedoms, they kind of become gray when it affects other people so much. Sure. And like Arnold Schwarzenegger said, we did a podcast not too awful long ago, where he was talking about screw your freedoms. I don't know if you heard that soundbite.
Yeah, I did.
That just inflamed people, right? Like it doesn't help. It probably doesn't help that he has a foreign accent. Right. He's like, screw your freedoms.
Let's be very specific. An Austrian accent.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yes.
So, but if a pandemic can't unify our country as far as working together to try to resolve things, it only polarizes us more and continues to. Right. So I think that's the biggest component of this threat that you speak of, is that we don't have an answer, man. Like,
that's right.
Not even close. There's nothing. It's like I don't see it, at least, and maybe
right. I mean, I don't think of myself as a stupid dude, but I literally can't see any way through it. I mean, I'm not a government expert or sociologist or anything, but like it seems like impossible to cross. I don't know. you know, maybe, you know what, maybe if aliens actually attack, then
Maybe, dude. I don't know.
maybe people might get it together to work together, but
Yeah.
it's a toss up, man.
The Republicans are probably going to like join forces with the aliens or something, dude, and it would just polarize us even further. I mean,
Right? Democrats would be like, fuck that alien shit.
Well, Ace, before we start winding down, I want to take this in a little bit of a different direction just for a minute.
Yes, sir.
You were talking about you've got a cable system that you're having put together right now,
Yes.
and you're getting away from the free weights. Talk to us about why you're making this transition. Why are you getting away from the free weights and going into more of a cable system for your exercise?
Here's the thing, and Colt may back me up on this. Now, you guys both lift weights, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Colt's kind of like my personal trainer, to be honst with you. He goes in, he develops the plan. We go in, we bust it out. I get bigger because of his hard work.
Beautiful.
I mean, not bigger than you. I get bigger for myself because of your hard work.
Yeah, right. Whatever.
So here's the thing. I'm going to be 50 in April.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, nobody does. That's a fact.
You carry it well, brother. You carry it well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So there is, you know who Henry Rollins is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Henry Rollins said that once he hit 50, he was like, man, there's just something different about my joints. There's something different about the way I feel when I'm lifting. And I've been thinking about that a lot. And here's the thing about the cable machine. You know, when you lift a weight, right? Let's say you do a curl. The just because of gravity and torque being what it is, when you're at 90 degrees, there's the most torque, right? The greatest effort is at 90 degrees. Less as you come up to your shoulder, less as you go down to your hip, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a cable, because it's gravity independent, a cable is tough at every degree. There is at no point when you're working against a cable, gravity is sort of redirected along the line of the cable, right? And there's not a easy point and a hard point. I mean, there are in certain exercises just based on angles, but in general, there is more time under tension.
Yeah, I was gonna say that constant tension through the whole exercise versus
exactly.
not at the top or the bottom when you're using free weights.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there's also I've noticed myself, like if I bench with cables, there are stabilizing muscles working. It's a little harder to control. Like, right, you know, I can do a bench with dumbbells really easy. I've got the, you know, as you do, I have no doubt, you got your, you know, you get in, get out, you're very boom, 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 very efficient with it. Something about cables makes it different for me. I feel like more is being used, stabilizing wise. And I can't help but think like around the shoulder capsule, all those muscles in the come on, help me. Shoulder, man. The
where you at?
The thing that everybody injures. That
your rotator cuff?
Thank you. Oh my God, what's wrong with you? Thank you. Holy shit. See, I'm 50. So those muscles, like it feels like to save my joints as I get older. Strengthening all those stabilizing muscles is really important, and I've been testing it out, and it really feels like a thing that could help me save my postures, help me save my core, help me save all of that. Also, it's just compact. It's really compact and easy. Check it out. It's called the MI6. It's by Hoist.
Okay.
And it is a pretty thing. It's got a small footprint, like like maybe 12 square feet, 3x4, and it is highly versatile, independent cable stacks, and you can do pull-ups on it. You know, your rows, your bench, your this, your that. The only thing it doesn't do real well are legs, but I've got other stuff for that. So
Now,
that's
did you transition to home workouts because of COVID, or were you doing that well before that?
I did, and I got to tell you, like, you know, I was a trainer, right?
Yeah.
I told you. Okay, so I found many years ago, I found it really difficult to train a bunch of people and then train myself. Like it took a lot to have the wherewithal to train myself after I trained a bunch of people. And so I found that early morning workouts are really what work for me. That's just, you know, that's how I've evolved into it. If I don't do it early in the morning, I'm not going to do it. That's just the long and the short of it. And getting up early in the morning and dragging myself to a gym somewhere else, dealing with that, the time it takes, it's just so much easier if I just do it at home.
Right.
Now you have the distractions of home at home. So you have to really, really delineate, you know, your time. I can't be like, okay, I'm gonna do a bench, and then in my rest, I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna program these drums, then I'm gonna get back down. You know what I'm saying? You can't do it like that. You have to be like, I'm lifting weights, that's it. And with this, I can wake up and start lifting weights in 5 minutes. And that's a beautiful thing for me. I just,
right.
I mean, it was, I had to think long and hard about whether I wanted it or not. Like it's not, strictly speaking, cheap,
Right.
but
You,
it's, go ahead.
you just got to be a person who can do that. Who, you know,
Yeah.
like me, I could probably put a gym in at my house and be okay for a while, but I think I'd just feel after a little while I'd just start feeling like not motivated to do it anymore.
Sure.
Getting myself
Absolutely.
to the getting yourself to the gym is a hard part sometimes, but once you're
Once
there,
you're there.
the
Yeah, yeah.
motivation comes. You're there. You see other people and
That's
you know
right.
who are doing the things that you're going to do and stuff like that. And it just
That's right.
for me, the gym is more beneficial than home. But I know a lot of people who look a heck of a lot better than I do who just do home workouts too. So
Yeah. So I guess it comes down to personality, really.
yeah,
Introvert, extrovert, yada yada yada. Morning person, evening person, whatever. But you know what? I'll let you know how it goes because this is this is a very young experiment. So we'll see how it flies. But I do really really like the cable thing. It's I've wanted to have a cable machine for a long long time, and my creaking joints are motivating me now. So that's the deal. But
yeah,
I'll let you know how it goes.
nice.
I'll be interested in that because you know I'm creeping up on 44 now,
Okay.
and I've been doing well in my life overall,
Mhm.
but I've recently suffered an elbow injury that
Oh,
Colt's been helping me work through, but it hasn't been easy because you know you mentioned curls earlier. That made me grimace just thinking about doing curls right
oh
now
wow.
because
Okay, so you got like tennis elbow or bursitis or what?
well I haven't been diagnosed, but I just know it's a
Gotcha.
lot of I assume that's what it is, just some
Got
kind
it.
of uh, tennis elbow ish type of
Yeah, man.
something, man. And it's
But tennis elbow more on the outside of the elbow.
maybe I don't
Yeah.
know because
Yeah, it is actually
okay,
So his is actually opposite.
yeah,
His is on the
mine's
on
inside
the
of his
inside.
elbow. Yeah.
Okay.
but yeah, I don't know what you call it. Like I said, I haven't had it diagnosed, but I I feel the pain of that even when I just think about it, sometimes. So, and I know that for me, even we did some curls win earlier this week, Friday, I think, Friday, and I could use the cable a little more in a pain-free manner than I could trying to do free weights. So I know there's definitely some validity to
Nice.
that. And I also know that cables, help a lot with form, right? So to make sure you don't get off your form.
That's right.
Am I right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Better than free weights for sure.
Better than free weights,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep.
So even though Colt's really been working hard with me on my form with the free weights and correcting me and assisting me in all manners, so I've gotten pretty good with my technique, my form in lifting free weights. There's still no, I mean, cable doesn't really give you an option, right? You don't have the option to really go off form, not nearly as much, at least. And so when you're getting an older guy like me, that means a lot because I hate being injured, man. I hate being out of commission. That's why I try to be so careful. But then at the end, you also at the same time, you want to put forth that effort to make those
right.
and because it feels good, and you push too hard though, you're like, oh shit, I did it again.
Exactly.
One
like,
step
okay,
forward, two steps back.
Yeah, there goes my shoulder. I guess I won't be lifting for 2 months.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that is a dismal thing. I hate to tell you, man, this is going to get more important to you as you get older. I'm here to tell you.
Don't tell me those things, Ace Ha. I don't want to hear that.
Sorry. I'm sorry, man. Just keep lifting. Lift hard. Lift safe.
There you go.
It amazes me how in common consciousness people think of weightlifting as this dumb thing. Oh, you're gonna lift some weights. And you think about what the form is and the periodization is and the nutrition and the this and the that and the other. It's actually very involved. It's not what people think. Well, now I know a lot of yahoos that curl with their backs, right?
Right.
But if you're doing it right, it takes a lot of concentration, a lot of discipline, a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
That's I don't know. I think of it kind of the thinking man's sport, really.
It's some of the smartest people that I know are in the bodybuilding industry. I've met through Colt. I mean, these guys are scientists, dude. These guys are scientists. Like they know some stuff that you would expect a scientist to be like using a whiteboard and waxing completely intellectual on their nutrition and hormones and I mean you name it. They'll break it down for you, dude. And it's heavy stuff. So, but I used to be the same way. I thought it was just a meathead sport because I didn't know any better. We've met some very good guys though, man. They're super smart and they're very accountable. And they're just good people, and so very trustworthy folks.
It's weightlifting is where it's at, man. It really. Hey, are you guys hip to Athlean X online?
I've seen it. I don't know much about it though.
That dude knows his stuff like crazy. Yeah, just when you got a minute, check him out, man. He's like what you're saying, right? Scientist, kinesiology, crazy mad scientist of weightlifting. And he actually might even have a video about your elbow, homie, for real. Like he has stuff like that. So it's really good stuff. I'll let you know how the cable thing goes. I think it's going to be good. There's a lot of weight on it, so I'm going to be challenged for a good long time. It's, I don't want to walk stooped over. I don't want to have injury. I don't want to be all messed up. I want to be able to move freely.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my number one thing, because I don't want to carry myself like an old man.
Right.
I want to be, youthful-ish.
Yeah, right.
Youthful-esque.
Same.
So, yeah, man. So.
Well, man, before we let you go, I usually don't do anything like this. I don't even talk about this much at all. But today is the 4th anniversary of my father's death.
Oh, boy.
The reason why I'm bringing it up is because I got a message from you shortly after his death 4 years ago. And it was something so simple. The message was so simple. It was the most profound thing that helped me through that time in my life. Because before you had messaged me, I'll admit, man, I was lost. I was in trouble. I wasn't prepared. I knew it was coming, but I wasn't prepared. I don't think you can be for how you're going to respond when it actually does happen.
Right, you are.
And the message was so simple, and yet it was what got me through. So I just want to thank you. face to face ish
So can I ask which message it was?
Yeah, man.
I said
It was so simple, and for full disclosure, I'll even let you know I've used it since to help other people.
beautiful.
All you said was you don't have to text me or message me back. Just put one foot in front of the other and keep going.
Yep.
And I don't know, man. I don't know why that worked. I don't know, but what you said, I knew that you knew what you were talking about, and I know that, I know that you do. Yeah. But
Exactly
you just said just keep put one foot in front of the other. And I mean, I had people, I had family, I had people that had known my father. He was a community man, a reverend. He had he was a very good guy. He had a lot of people who he was just good as well, and they were trying to support me. But that one little thing you said, I don't know, man. It just something worked. I knew what you were talking about, and I used it, and here I am today, bigger and better than ever. So
I am really, really, really gratified to hear that, man. I'm so happy that helped you, because I went through that fire too, and it was just like it takes the wind out of you for sure.
Yeah.
And you're like, what do I, and just incrementally, just keep going, and let things evolve as they will. Right.
Right.
I'm glad you're okay. It's been 15 years for me.
Is that right?
But but I'm glad that was able to help you, man. That's really super cool.
I actually think, if I'm not mistaken, the day we recorded when we recorded with Ace last time was the day you found out. Because we recorded for like 3 hours, and then afterwards I could tell something was off with you, and you told me after the show what was going on, and then how it was really soon after that he passed.
Yeah, he was only sick for 6 weeks and he was gone.
Yeah.
Mine too.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was really, really quick, but kind of tough.
Yeah, absolutely. There's pros and cons, to going quickly.
That's right.
After you're diagnosed, Dad had pancreatic cancer, and so
that's what I had. That's what my pops had.
Same, really. That's awesome. I mean, it's not awesome. It's just it's awesome that we connect in that way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's a club. That's right.
Oh yeah, pancreatic cancer is the bomb.
You're right. Yeah. No, it's amazing. I should have said how that connection just happened that way. And like I said, I don't know what it was. I still look back at it. It's just such a simple message, but I used it and it worked, because for some reason, just putting one foot in front of the other, it wasn't crossing my mind. Just keep moving forward, man. You just gotta keep living your life. You just gotta keep doing it, and things will eventually settle down and get better.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I needed. So I wanted to thank you for that. If I don't know if I have, but you have no idea how much that helped.
I'm so glad to hear that, man. And I'm glad you made it through that fire. It's a toughie for sure.
Yeah.
So.
And man, I just I want you to tell Tab we said hello. She has no idea who we are, but I feel like I know who she is because of the Tabisms that you post and the back and forth dialogue that you post.
Yeah, we at least know her personality for sure.
Yeah.
Let me just state for the record that Tabitha puts up with an immense amount of shit from me. So she is a really, really good sport. So and she takes my gentle ribbing in stride. It was a good one. So shout out to Tab.
Yeah, I'm sure it takes a special kind of woman to live with the one and only Ace Ha.
For better or worse.
Right. Ace, man, we really appreciate you jumping on. Let's not wait so long next time, man. Like I said,
definitely.
If it's been that long since we talked, that was 4 years.
Yeah.
So there's no way that we should ever wait that long again before we do this. Man, I have a great time talking with you.
Likewise.
Likewise.
I've never even met you guys, but you're my boys.
Yeah, I feel the same.
All right. Yeah, let's do it. And I'm going to send you some stuff. I'm going to send you some stuff so you hear what I've been doing.
Yeah, please do, man.
All right.
Once again, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you as a person, and be looking forward to the next time we talk, man. Be easy.
All right. Keep your heads up.
All right.
All right.